Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You're in the Prog Corner, and today we're going to be looking at the neo-prog band Comedy of Errors and their sixth album, Threnody for a Dead Queen. This album is obviously about death and, transcending from one plane of existence to another. They didn't know the Queen was going to die, so apparently it's mere coincidence. But let's dive in a little bit. Comedy of Errors, formed in Glasgow in 1984. They put out a couple of EPs back in the 80s. Didn't really do a whole lot. They were kind of clicked up with another Scottish band called Abel Gance. Fast forward to 2011, they finally dropped their first album, Disobey. It was followed in 2013 by Fanfare and Fantasy. I love that album. 2015 saw their third album, Spirit. 2017, you had House of the Mind. And then 2022, Time Machine. Man, I didn't think they could ever do anything to even come close to topping Time Machine. Did they do it on this one? Threnody for a Dead Queen? I think it's close. Who is Comedy of Errors? Well, it's Joe Carney on vocals. Jim Johnston plays the keyboards, and I guess he writes all the words and the music. The great Bruce Levick on drums. Man, this guy steals the show in several spots on this album. You've got two guitar players, Mike Spalding and Sam McCullough. I'm guessing one of them plays bass guitar because no one's credited as playing bass on this album, but I know Mark Spalding used to be the bass player back in the 80s when they had another guitar player. The bass does some great stuff on this album. I guess they're not using John Fitzgerald anymore. He was a live bass player. I don't know if he ever even played on any of their albums, so I guess they're a five-piece in the studio. But this new album starts out with a song called Summer Lies Beyond. It's 15 and a half minutes long. It starts out real spacey, really atmospheric, almost new age. I expected to see a Windham Hill label on here. The fog finally lifts, and we're treated to the old 6-7-1 chord progression. In this case, it's F, G, A minor. The lion's share of this album resides in A minor, and you'll see why, because some of these chord progressions show up time and time again throughout this album. Finally, the vocals come in, and you got a real sticky 5/4 beat that's awesome. There's a guitar melody over the top of it, but the real cool thing about this song is pay attention to what the bass is doing. He's kind of moving in and out from the melody, and it's really, really cool, very special, very interesting. I wish I knew who was playing the bass on that. It's not cool, man. You got to do better with the crediting on your albums, Comedy of Errors. Yes, you do. We go back to that F, G, A minor section, and then you get another spacey section. And then you get another chord progression that we're going to deal with quite a bit on this album. The old G to D to F to C, and C minor to G, B flat to C. Whatever, you don't need to know all that, but that chord progression keeps popping up over and over and over throughout this album, so it's kind of cool. It slowly builds at the end of the song as they keep adding like different parts, different guitar lines. Jim Johnston keeps putting, more and more keyboard stuff on top of it. And then Bruce is drumming here at the end. He just goes nuts. It's just awesome. And then you get the melody on a piano at the end, and the song is done. It's fantastic. And then they got the Stones to do it again. The second track, called The Seventh Seal, is 14 minutes long. I'm guessing it's named after the Bergman film of the same name. Easily my favorite song on the album. I've read a couple of reviews, and some people liken this to Alan Parsons' Project. Dude, you need to get the earwax out of your ears. I don't hear that at all. Yeah, you got a real shimmering keyboard intro, which seems to be kind of what this album is all about, is a lot of the atmospherics, but you don't have to wait too long till the main riff comes in, and it is super powerful. It's in 9/8. You got Hammond, you got Mellotron in the background, you got a cool synth playing a counter melody. It's just really great. A lot of different key changes, kind of keep you unsure where you're at. Very bright, shiny, happy. It feels a little bit like Yes. And then at the 7:35 mark, you get that main riff from the first song comes back, and that's kind of a neat trick. You get a little guitar solo at the 8:45 mark. I'm not sure which guitarist plays it, but it does sound a lot like Rothery. You get a fake climax at 11. It's building up. You think it's going somewhere, but it doesn't. It just keeps going with those chord progressions. Finally, a minute later, the intro in 9/8 comes back, and you get one more verse, and then the song ends. I walk towards a loving light where death has no dominion. Yeah, and that pretty much tells the whole story of this album. Next up, you've got a little 3-minute interlude, which recalls some of the themes from the previous two songs. It's called We Are Such Stuff as Dreams Are Made. And, that is a quote from Shakespeare from The Tempest. You got strings, and then the melody from the previous song gets played on the keyboards. So that's really cool. Next up is a weird song that really is a little bit out of place. It's a cute little pastoral song called Jane. Came out of the blue. It's a cute little pop song, maybe even reminded me of the Strawbs a little bit here. It's kind of jangle poppy, real simple chord progression, A minor, C, G, D. Yeah, we're staying in the same wheelhouse there, but it's a real nice change of pace. It's a real light, refreshing song, and it kind of needs to be there because this album can feel oppressive a little bit in its dark imagery and its atmospherics. To wit, the next song is called Through the Veil. It's 3.5 minutes long. You got more of those synth strings going on, but here the drums kind of pick up halfway through the song. This song actually works because it's an F, so it does give you some total respite from the absolute battering we're getting in A minor throughout this entire album. The title track comes up next, the Threnody for a Dead Queen. It clocks in at 12.5 minutes, and this thing's wild, man. Yeah, it's an A minor, but it starts out with all these like Japanese stringed instruments almost. It's keyboards, but it sounds like that. And then you got some Hackett guitar flowing in and out, which sounds really great. At the 3-minute mark, the drums kick in and the bass, and you got bass pedals that just kind of add to the sonic stew there. At the 6-minute mark, the whole thing comes down, and you're wondering, where are these guys going, man? We haven't even had lyrics in this song yet. At the 8-minute mark, you've got another chord progression that sounds real familiar because it starts F, G, A minor, just like the album opened. But this time it goes into, a secondary chord progression where it goes from F to E minor to D. Whatever. Finally, at the 9-minute mark, man, the band finally kicks in and you get vocals, and it's really great. Again, being in A minor, a lot of these melodies are all kind of interchangeable. They all feel like they're of the same breed, absolutely. And then after that, you've got another 3-minute instrumental called And Our Little Life is Rounded with the Sleep. And once again, that is a Shakespeare quote from The Tempest. We need to take a minute here and think about that. Both of those quotes were from The Tempest. They were both spoken by Prospero, who is a very bizarre character in the history of Shakespeare's plays. He was all into magic, and some people say The Tempest was actually the only play that Shakespeare even wrote by himself. There's probably some truth to that. And then you finally get to the final track, which is called Funeral Dance. It too is like 3 minutes long. It kind of reminds me of a song off their first album called Prelude, Riff, and Fugue. So it's got that Renaissance kind of thing going on. It's an instrumental, and then it picks up with the drums, and it's kind of like a marriage of like a Renaissance fair meeting, modern instrumentation. It kind of works. It kind of doesn't work. I like it a little bit. The chord progression's a little awkward, and then it ends with some crowd noise. The crowd just goes wild. They love it. Obviously, this wasn't recorded live, so they, piped that in, but it's kind of a cool way to end the album. Anyway, my overall thoughts on this, man, this album takes a whole lot of listening to figure out why all these melodies interlock and come back in different places. It is a bit confusing. I spent all weekend trying to decode this thing, and I'm still not really sure what I'm listening to, but this much I do know. I really like this album. Is it as good as Time Machine? I don't know, man. Time Machine was pretty much perfect to me. I like this album a lot, but it does have some down moments. There's some repetition. There might be some moments that are maybe a little boring, a little new age-y, but I don't care, man. Give it to me. I love Comedy of Errors. I'm going to score this puppy at 4.5 headphones. It's almost a 5, man. If we just had a couple more themes that we could add to it, spice it up a little bit, it probably would have been a 5, but as it stands, this is an hour well spent. I highly recommend it. I love Comedy of Errors. Anyway, guys, next week we are going to be reviewing the Chronicles of Father Robin, man. If you don't know what it is, Google it, look it up. And then we are also going to be doing the best of 2023 so far. So it's been an incredible year, and you guys have been a big, big part of it. Thank you so much to all my friends, to all my subscribers, all 4,410 of you, and to those who have not subscribed, enjoy the videos, man. Maybe someday you'll want to hit that subscribe button. I do not care. Anyway, peace in the Middle East. God save the king. I'll see you punks next week.